Hey, Justine, how are you?
Hey, Monique, I'm pretty good. What you got going on this week?
Oh, my goodness. Well, this week in the podcast, we are actually finally talking about choosing more sex.
That is perfect. I was just talking with our friend Angela, and we were saying those summer vibes are coming on. It feels like it is time to get sex back on the table. So does this mean you're going to be talking about that time, like going into the full story?
Oh, well, no, I'm not talking about on this episode, but I will share it later in the season. So,
okay. I'm looking forward to that one.
It's a good one. It's time for that story to be told. All right, girl, I'm going to get ready and get this episode queued up. I will talk to you soon, okay? Let's go for a walk soon, okay?
I'd love it. Bye.
Bye, sweets. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to More with Monique. My name is Monique DeBose. I'm a singer, writer, and spiritual coach, and my passion in life is to inspire women to choose more for themselves. Today's episode is all about choosing more sex. And who doesn't want to choose more of that? If only it were that simple. This topic is so important and intriguing to me because I feel like so many women don't choose more sex, or we choose more sex with a side of shame. So I just want to start off by saying, choose more sex, women. Let's shout it out together. I choose more sex. Okay, now that that's out of my system, let's get something in it. So let's get into it. My first guest is Angela Richardson, a writer, coach, healer, and founder of Satiate. Its mission is to redefine intimate relating, one conversation at a time. I love Angela's story of choosing more sex and juggling several men at the same time, and she's here to share it with us now.
My name is Angela, and I choose more sex. I want to share this story with you because for so much of my life, I would consider myself to have been someone relatively open when it came to the expression of my sexuality and sensuality, except for I was a very one person at a time, and it all related to them. That's not to say that I'm a polyamorous person, but I realized at one point that I get to choose more sex, or I get to choose more satisfaction and intimacy and desire inside of my sex, which was really what it was about. Some of the backstory about me in relationship was I would have a 4-year relationship, then another 4-year relationship, and then another one. And so the whole dating would last, and then I would have a relationship. And then I'd have these really kind of concrete terms of how that would go. Mm-hmm. There was this period of time several years back where I was dating someone, let's call him James. And James was my friend. James was like my love interest. James was like, I met James, and then in 3 days, I had planned out our entire life for into eternity.
It can happen that way. I got engaged to be married after 10 days. So,
right? This is how we're growing old together. I see it. I got it. The only issue in my plan that I created for us was that James did not actually want to be in a committed relationship with me.
Damn it, James.
Right. And so for years, we would do this dance back and forth. We were great friends. There was lots of interest. We were in one of those, what I call the relationship, but it's not called a relationship. Mm-hmm. And we would have ebbs and flows with it. And there was this point where I was like, I don't know where this is going. What am I supposed to do with this? But I also just didn't want to let it go. Mm-hmm. I don't know if anybody out there can relate. And then around that time where I was starting to be like, something needs to shift here, I met, let's call him Mike.
James and Mike. Very good. Mm-hmm.
So I met Michael because around this time I started saying, I think I want a little more. I'm not going to be in this relationship with James. So I think I want a little more, and I wonder what else is possible. And so I started going to classes and workshops and single groups and all the things. And I came across this practice called orgasmic meditation. Michael was a part of this community. And a lot of what I learned there was around tapping into my own desire. So it really wasn't about let me get into this relationship really quick. It was more like, what do I feel? What do I want? Which was kind of revolutionary for me at the time, like really leading with my desire. But I didn't really want to let James go. So Michael and I started to get involved, more like lovers.
So not really in relationship as we traditionally might define as relationship.
Correct. But it was also really intimate, which I found so interesting. And by intimate, I mean, in the past, I'd had one night stands that felt a little devoid of like that connection, but very physically pleasurable, but not as emotionally intimate. That's what I would say.
Did Michael want more than being lovers, or was Michael cool with it too?
Michael was cool with it too. Like he was one of those people who was like, let's check in about what we're actually doing here. Because it was early stages of our connection. And so it almost felt like I was ready to plan our life together out too.
So that was just your natural default when you got intimate or connected with a man. It was, okay, it feels good in my body. We're making a life.
That's right. But when I realized I couldn't even make the fantasies work with Michael in a certain way, he became my lover. And then I realized that I didn't want to give up James either.
Is that a question on the table for you at some point, though, when you met Michael? Was it like, oh, now I'm with Michael, I need to let James go? Did that come into your consciousness?
100%. That is how I operated, that I had in my mind that I can only have one lover at a time. And whatever is sort of being, quote unquote, provided by that lover, that's what I'm experiencing. I was like, I have these two individuals and they're very different. Michael and James, so different. And neither one of them want to be in a committed relationship. And so I thought to myself, well, could I have them both?
I'm curious how you balanced both of them. Was there a part of you that was also like, neither one of them want to be with me?
Oh, yes. So I'll do both. So first, of course, the first reaction is neither one of them want to be with me. I wanted to be in a relationship, what I was considering like a committed, monogamous boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. That's my end game at the time. And so I felt really bummed and disappointed by that. But then also as I was exploring both, it's like, well, what do I like about this one? And what do I like about that one? And I realized like one was such a deep friend of mine. And I loved him so much just as our friendship. And then this other was this whole wild, beautiful, exploratory of the body that I also really loved.
I choose Michael. I'm just kidding.
Me too. I choose Michael too. And I choose James.
Friends are good. And I choose Michael. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
Let me be clear though. He was my friend and we had great sex. Deep, soulful. You know, the thing that was beautiful about that is that he knew my body really well.
Yes.
So there was like that friendship intimacy and also that emotional intimacy of knowing what's going on with me. So, I mean, you can see I've got this deep, soulful thing happening. And then I've got this like wild ride. And, you know, depending on, you know, the days.
Yep.
Which one do I want on Tuesday? Which do I want on Thursday? And I really had never navigated that in an upfront way with people.
Yeah. So it sounds like they were both aware that you were seeing both of them, or were they not?
At first, they were not, because they would go in increments. I wasn't yet doing Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. It would be like in the month of April, I was with James. In the month of May, I was choosing Michael. And then I realized, because I was still in the early stages with Michael, then I realized, wait a minute. Let me try something else here. And I did. I brought it up to both of them at different times. And I said, you know, I'm dating this other person. We're sexually intimate. I really kind of brought it forward. Like maybe one of them won't want to do this. And since neither one of them want to be in a committed relationship, yeah, you know, we'll just see what happens. And both of them, to my shock and surprise and delight, you know, we talked about it. Told them, you know, basic stuff about the other person, and they were both fine with it.
I love it. It's so powerful when we actually claim our own desire, because in claiming our own desire, we can't like fall to the excuses of like that lower vibration of, oh, they don't want me, or, oh, something's bad's happening to me, or I'm not worthy. Or it's like claiming your own desire is like, oh no, I'm making the choices in this space. And that to me is really powerful.
I agree. And I really brought it to them both from this place of, I think I can have both. I think I can have more, which is very different than saying, hey, so I know you don't really want to be with me, but I'm thinking about being with this other person. But if you don't want that, then I just won't do that.
Different vibration. Yeah.
Totally different vibration. And what I was learning at the time was that's basically giving them my autonomy, which was not at all, number one, it wasn't what I'm supposed to be doing, and isn't anything that they're interested in. And so it was a beautiful experience of me of staying with my desire and saying, this is what I'd like. I'd like you for these reasons. I would love to keep on doing this. And I just want to let you know, I'm also seeing someone else.
Yeah.
It opened up better conversations with both of them.
Okay. So what happens next?
Well, I'm having these two great experiences and I still want more. I want that partnered relationship. I want all of the exploration and I want someone who wants that back with me. So I decided I'm going to keep dating. I'm going to have more.
I love it.
And it was so edgy for me though, Monique, because there was some wire that I had. It's like, don't be so greedy. Like you've got these two really incredible men in your life. Just be satisfied with this. And I was like, but I want more still.
I love that you decided to choose more, but that you heard that voice of, oh, you're being too greedy, and that it was edgy and you still went for it. That's powerful.
Yeah, it was edgy. And I realized that I had some real judgment about my sexual hunger, what it should be like, what it shouldn't be like, the stereotypes of if you have more than one lover, maybe I'm a slut now, like all of these things that on one hand I didn't believe, but on one hand, somewhere deep ingrained in me, I just also had it. So choosing more meant confronting that and then just taking some steps. So I met David. Now, David was sort of like a boy meets girl textbook dating. David and I went on several dates. He would pick me up. He'd pay for dinner. We were dating. And because of all of the sort of cumulative experiences that I was having, I was like, well, I want to try this a little bit different. And so I didn't start having sex with him, but I said, like, what I'd like to do is explore our physical intimacy in a really slow and intentional way. And so we really built the beginning of our relationship like we were moving toward partnership.
Wow.
I know this was edgy too, where I was like, I don't want to go past any further than what I want. So if I just want to kiss this evening, let's just do that. If we want to do, whatever else we want to hold hands, then let's just do that. And I was really paying attention at the time to what is the subtle more that I want?
That's powerful because I'm imagining, and I've been in that situation before where, oh, you're trying to read, well, what do they want? And then how can I fit myself into that? So it sounds like you were very conscious, and it sounds like it was challenging too, to really hold your own desire as your compass.
Absolutely. And I realized how many times I just sort of say, oh, well, that's okay. Or, all right, just a little bit more, instead of really hearing, and it's so soft, that voice that's like, oh, I feel done now. Like that feels, I was really working with, when do I feel satiated in my connections? When do I feel like, oh, that feels like enough? Kind of like when you're eating a great meal and you just hit that spot where you're like, oh, okay, I feel, And then everything after that is just like, oh, wait, nope, stomach hurts. Now I'm tired.
Yeah, I understand that. So I have like a couple questions to kind of round us up. How did it work out with all three guys?
So let's see. Interestingly enough, at some point in this exploration, I chose more with Michael. And he came forward with the desire to be in a relationship. So I said yes to it.
Wow.
That's what I wanted. We have since broken up, but Nonetheless.
And did that mean then was it required did Michael ask, hey, now that I want to be in relationship and now that you've said yes to that, did you need to let go of lovers, or was that a natural piece for you?
Yes. So this is what I learned. I learned that my idea of relationship was monogamous. And so what I did was I did let go of all of the other lovers. In retrospect, I maybe would have said, well, let's look at this. But at the time, that's what I did. Mm-hmm. And so in choosing that, I let James go. We're still friends to this day. In fact, it's still one of the most soulful connections that I have. And then David and we have since drifted apart, not in a negative way or anything like that. But I chose to explore the relationship.
So I have one question for you. What advice do you have for women who want to choose more sex?
My first thought would be, if you want more, you can have more. Mm. And it doesn't have to look any specific kind of way. Like, I would have never planned out this experience. I wouldn't have thought I could have it. So I would just start by saying, yes, I want more. And yes, I think it's possible. It's okay for me to want more. And then do it at the pace that feels resonant. Ask your body, what more do you want? And then take some chances. Have some fun with it and do it at a pace that feels really good.
Angela, thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing this.
Thank you. It's my pleasure, truly.
Hey, it's Monique here. I am so excited for you to experience my brand new album, You Are the Sovereign One, when it comes out on August 27th. And now, for the first time ever, I am excited to share with you all this incredible song from the album called Human Condition. It features the amazing inspirational coach that is Mr. Preston Smiles, and I'm honored to have him featured on this record. For more news around the release of this song, my new album, You Are the Sovereign One, or if you want to check out more of my music and my world, make sure to follow me on Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok at I am Monique DeBose. I'm Monique DeBose, and this is More with Monique. My next guest is a dear friend of mine. Her name is Chloe, and she and her husband decided that their marriage needed a tune-up. They were feeling like they needed something more in their relationship to really make it thrive, so they decided to explore the world of swingers. I'm really excited to talk with Chloe about this.
My name is Chloe, and I choose more sex. First of all, we got married pretty long ago. We're actually gonna be married for 15 years this May. So it was quite a journey. And I feel from the beginning of the relationship, we were pretty open and frank about marriage, about sex. We sat down and said, what is the one thing we wanted to define as is important in our marriage? And one of the things that we always said was we would like to support each other to grow in our personal development. And at any stage, if we don't support each other in each other's growth, we have to revisit our marriage. And that is basically what happened. After maybe 5 years of marriage, we had our son. Then he turned 2. I got pregnant again. We had our daughter. When you have your second child, it's just so hard to make time for yourselves, even just for yourselves, and then for each other. And it was a challenge. I think we grew apart during that period. And it was a period of maybe 1 year at least that there was actually hardly any sex, really. There was maybe we had sex once a month or maybe once every few months. It was non-existent. And when that happened, I feel like we both got into a space of denial. We didn't really address what was going on, but I definitely had a need to have sex, and he had a need to have sex. And there was no real connection. And I remember the night that we actually really talked about, okay, what's going on? What's the problem? Can we work on this? And we both acknowledged that we both wanted more sex. We wanted more exciting sex. And we started to talk about what would be really exciting to us to really invigorate our sex life. And we started to talk about fantasies, basically. Mm-hmm. And the openness and willingness to shift and talk about it actually made us more emotionally close and made us more like, oh, yeah, we do want to have, sex together. We do want to be intimate together. And then in that intimacy, I just was able to express one of my fantasies that I had for a long time that I always felt embarrassed about and very ashamed of. But,
you felt ashamed that you had the desire for that particular fantasy?
Yeah, like I had a fantasy of multiple partners. I just had a fantasy of like being so desired and being so open and sexy and sensual that it was like me and my husband, but then like all these gorgeous guys just, loving me. That was like my, he was like, oh yeah, that sounds hot. He was like so inspired by that idea.
I bet he was.
And we kind of like talked about it. It was just very invigorating and exciting and different.
This is really important for any woman who's listening right now. You expressing that fantasy, that seems like it was a very challenging thing because there was shame around it. I'm going to say embarrassment. I'm not sure that's accurate, but like, something's wrong with me because I have this fantasy. And I just feel like that's really important for a lot of women to hear because a lot of us walk around with these misunderstandings that society has put on us, that we've internalized ourselves, that say what we actually desire must be wrong. And to me, it's really inspiring when we can understand and hear from a woman that even though she felt that shame and that embarrassment and that something might be wrong with her for having that, she was willing to express it anyway.
I had no idea about swinging or open relationships, or I had no knowledge about any of this stuff. And I actually learned about it later, and we call it the lifestyle. And one of the most important things within that is that the base of that whole community is really the communication with your significant other. It's almost like it's not about all the other people. It's almost they're all foreplay. Mm-hmm. And then you have this connection with your partner and you talk about your fantasy, you fulfill your fantasies or not as much as you can. Mm-hmm. And then you create more connection, and all the other people's are just tools to help you get even closer together because it brings up challenges.
I'm very curious, and I'm imagining listeners are curious. Will you give me one example of like a real concrete experience?
Our first experience was actually when we started to explore the whole idea of maybe getting together with another couple or another. This is one of his fantasies. Like, oh, okay, let's see if there's another couple that we can like have a foursome with, So we went on a little getaway and he set up a meeting with another couple. Mm-hmm. And there was actually not a lot of intercourse. There was a lot of kissing and whatever, all of that stuff. It was very mild. It was like our first real like special experience. Mm-hmm. And what Griff was saying is like after the experience, it was really fun. It was just fun. We had drinks and we talked and then we fooled around and like she was hot and he was kind of hot and we were like all like, oh yeah, let's do this, whatever. And there was a point in that night when he actually wanted to have intercourse with me, the other guy from the other couple. So he asked permission and he was like, he wasn't sure about it. So I didn't go there. For me, I was like, oh, well,
You would have been happy to have sex with the other guy.
Yeah,
and
I was
Griff
like curious.
Sure.
Yes.
And Griff was like, oh, I don't know how I'll feel about that.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. And then afterwards, when we talked about it, he was saying like, I actually felt jealousy. There was this jealousy. It's like, no, that's my woman. She's mine. And we've been together for so long that like, you can't do this. And he felt like that was actually impeding our experience. I just love that about Griff is that he when he sees a problem and a challenge, and then instead of like running away from it and like keeping it in, he was like, okay, if I have a problem with jealousy, I should overcome it. So when we were talking in a different, occasion about that desire of me to have some multiple partners at the same time, he was like, okay, that scares the shit out of me, but let's run with it. And he didn't tell me that. He's just like, oh, yeah, great, fantasy and all that. Behind my back, he went and set something up.
To have that multiple experience.
And we had that experience, and it was so amazing. It was just like, did we just do this? We did that, and it actually helped him overcome that jealousy one, and it actually brought us closer together because we were able to dissect it and talk about it. It's like a whole different level of honesty and openness and
connection and intimacy.
Yeah, and it's just so interesting because I feel like we still have a lot of sex together, and so far it's fun. It's very fun.
Hi, it's Monique again. As today's episode is all about sex, I wanted to share a song from the new album, You Are the Sovereign One, out August 27th. This song, Fortunate Woman, is a grown folks sexy R&B ballad. And fun fact, I explored both my masculine and feminine sides recording this tune. I sang both the female and male parts. I did a duet with myself. I had to be brave to go deep into the masculine energy, but I did it, and I'm proud to have recorded something so vulnerable and unique. For more conversations about sex, as well as a host of other inspiring discussions, be sure to join the Women Choosing More Facebook group. I'll meet you there. And now it's time for the Choose More Minute. So after hearing these stories, you're probably wanting more sex. And one of the best ways to get everybody in the mood is to build intimacy between you and you, or you and your partner. A great way to light that fire is soul gazing. Don't worry if you're not in partnership, because intimacy starts at home. Soul gazing is connecting with the person opposite you by looking deep into their eyes over a period of time. To start, give yourself just 30 seconds for this practice. You can add time as you feel more comfortable. A couple of tips for success. Pick one eye and look into it lovingly. No one likes looking at eyes that are bouncing back and forth. And second tip, I find saying, I see you, I love you, in my mind's eye helps me to keep my heart open. So that's our show. See you all next week, and make sure to join me for more conversations in our Women Choosing More Facebook group. Our producers are Larry Carlat and Hannah Randall. Administration by Angela York. Today's episode was edited and mixed by Ronnie Mickelson, and our theme song was written by yours truly. Have a great week, and remember to
be the woman that you know you are. Don't you settle, girl, travel far, let's use
every day, do they, yeah. Do they, do they, ooh. Do ba day, ba day, day.